Okay, it's counting down.
3, 2, 1. What's going on, people? We are back. We're checking out some new tech today, so we have no idea how that's going to work, and that's always super fun. But this episode of Business Growth Time is brought to you by all the cool things you get from networking that aren't simply referrals, and we're excited to share that story. With me, as always, is the one, the only, the lovely, the talented, the marketing maven, Facebook ads superstar, Janet E. Johnson. Hi, Janet E. Johnson. You're wearing green today. Any special reason?
Oh yeah, I thought why not wear the green? Oh yeah, I was supposed to. My Nikki, I don't have my beads. She had all these beads for me. I thought that would have been fun for Terry, but
Well,
yeah,
I would have.
you're
It's
not
only
even
fun
in
if I'm
green. Come
throwing
on.
them. My last name is Bean. Can you imagine what it's like wearing green if your last name is Bean? No, that's not a thing.
Green bean.
I'm not. No, not subjecting myself to the obvious. No, no.
I would only drink green coffee or green wine because I don't drink beer. So
Yeah. Do they make green wine?
no, well, you just got to
Oh,
put a couple drops, but that's disgusting.
that
Whatever.
sounds horrible. Although green beer seems horrible too. And I worked at bars for years, right? In Irish pubs specifically.
Okay.
So it's St. Patty's Day 2022. We never really date these shows, but sometimes we timestamp them a little.
Yep.
And so during those days, holy crap, did we serve a lot of green beer. In fact,
I bet.
I told the story on LinkedIn this morning about I closed the bar, which means you get out at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was a Friday night. And we already had a line at the bar for Saturday morning because the bar opened at 7 a.m. And I closed the bar Saturday night, which was actually St. Patty's Day. There was a guy that was in line at 3 a.m. when I left that
What?
I ended up throwing out of the bar at 12:30 p.m. or a.m. the very next day. Dude put at least 19 and a half hours bar time and was there 4 hours before that. That's putting in work, people. You got to have that kind of effort to succeed.
That is to succeed in what?
To succeed in being a
Getting a big
drunkard? I don't
beer belly?
know. He was owning that stuff, man. It was pretty funny. But yeah, that's impressive. That was
Wow.
impressive. So yeah.
Well, you never had an E word today, so I guess it's I don't know. Eating?
Eating eating disorder. We used that before.
Green eating disorder.
I'm having a flashback to saying that exact thing. Yeah, you know what? That is fascinating. How did I skip the whole E word thing?
I don't know. I was like,
It
wait,
hasn't been
there's
that
no E
long.
word.
That's
Uh,
yeah.
E
Oh,
green. I don't know. We can make
E
it up.
green. Maybe I can be done with the E word. You know what? I'm gonna use energy because
Oh, there you go. Okay.
this Arizona RX energy tea is phenomenal. It's got some really good stuff in it
Okay.
for
Oh.
you and for your wellness.
Does it have
Uh,
sugar or no
and
sugar?
tasty. It's got some sugar in it, I'm sure.
Oh, so
Yeah, it's not super healthy, right?
okay, got it.
Total sugars. I don't have my glasses on, but it looks like a 32. So it's not sugar free and not full of some garbage.
They might have it in a sugar-free version, though. That's possible.
No, no, because that's no good. But it's got lots of vitamin A, lots of vitamin C, lots of vitamin E, and some other healthy tonic type things. An invigorating, listen to this, an invigorating blend of green tea, tropical and citrus fruits, Panax ginseng, a word that I can't pronounce, a thorough root, guarana and shashandra and vitamins A, C, and E. Why would you not want that? Huh? Get some.
Wow. I just take
I,
my collagen and my vitamins.
this
My
is just
coffee.
like
Hate to say it. Yeah, that's great. That's
I
great.
got
Well, okay. So we've got past the E, we got past the intros. Now, what are we going to be talking about today?
So, we were, as we typically do, we were talking about the idea of what the hell are we going to talk about today?
That's because we wanted to test the which this may never even watch it, not even record. It's recording. I see that, but now
It says
the
record.
question afterwards. This is called Riverside.fm. We're using a new studio instead of Zoom for this, so this will be interesting. The sound might be better, possibly. And then you can clip out certain things, and it's cool for repurposing content on your social media as well.
Yeah, I
So
was wondering. So that was the main impotence from switching from Zoom for today, just to try that out.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm
and
pumped.
sound. So what I've been told a long time ago, but I haven't cared because we just, we do what we do, is that Zoom isn't the best place to record your podcast. For somebody listening to it in the ear, it's not the best. Like it doesn't. I don't get this techie stuff of the sound. My kid probably would, but the sound isn't quite as uh, good. Like you can put it into multiple channels or something, frequency. I don't know what it is, but when podcasters have these big boards in front of them, and do you know what I'm talking about?
I
With all
don't.
the sound things, and I don't know. So anyway, this has more of that as well. But then there's multiple uses for it. Gary Vee uses it. I don't know. So
Oh, well, if Gary V uses it, it must be the way to
actually,
go.
there was an interview of
Clearly.
Gary Vee and Zuckerberg on here.
Oh,
So if you go check out Riverside.fm, front page has an interview of those two using this, and I don't know what the interview was about. Probably talking about metaverse, knowing them.
I love the world that we live in now. We're all super good at headlines. We're all super good at images. We're all super good at, hey, look, these two are doing something. What are they doing? I have no idea. I didn't click it. I just saw it. That's what's up. That's what's up.
Because
All
we don't
right.
have time. I know it's time. Time is money. All
So
right.
back
So
to your question. So as
yeah.
we were discussing what we might talk about on this Riverside tool, I had mentioned that I'm writing a blog post about the idea of the giver's gain paradox, right? When networking, we always talk about, if you give, you get. Give, get. Um, but a lot of times, if you're an experienced networker that really focuses on the giving, you start to realize that the getting doesn't always happen at the same frequency that the giving does. And so you're like, man, I'm giving, but I'm not getting. And then I had an experience where last week I spent some time up at this gorgeous mountainside chalet at a ski hill. And I say mountain with air quotes because I live in Michigan. It's not a mountain, it's a hill. Um, but it was slope side, and it was from a buddy that I've done some networking with. He gave me his $1,000 a night place for 3 or 4 nights because I had deposited into that relationship account. And as I was telling you that story, you said, hey, I'm going to Florida based on networking. So it came with the idea that networking is more than just getting referrals. And so we're going to talk about the other things people get while networking.
Well, we got perks. There's one, but but I think like even yeah, I like that. I like this topic because honestly, especially since, really looking at my life since separating recently, is just, who the people around me. And 80+% the people around me that I'm friends with are through business networking.
So friendships, right?
Hmm.
So let's take a dive into friendships for a minute.
Okay.
So when you think about the friends that you have, let's talk about 2 or 3 people that you might want to highlight and shine that spotlight on. Um, Talk to us about where you met them and how you became friends.
Well, we could just like Gandhi was at a business networking event years ago. I mean, like, I don't know, 10 or more years ago. And we ended up just meeting I remember him coming to one I did. I mean, where, we sat around the table, you'd pass out your cards, and I don't know, I haven't done that type anymore. It was similar to a BNI, but not a BNI. Okay. And then we became friends. We ended up voting. We ended up meeting again and again and voting for years together. And I became great friends. I met his wife through that. Now she's one of my best friends, and we're actually going on the trip to Florida together. And then through that same business networking group, we're staying with two people that invited us down, who just bought a place in Naples, who invited us down. And those two people came from that same business networking group. So him and my wife met her through that. And then in addition to that, so I said three, so I'm going to number three. I belong to a women's group called Refine, and it's a business networking group. And the gal who runs it her name is Jerry Johnson. She lives in Naples. So then I was talking to her as a friend. We were talking, we have some similar things going on personally in our lives. And we were just talking on a personal level about things. And then she's like, well, I belong to the boat club. Why don't you guys come out on Friday in the boat? And we're going to go to Marco Island with her and then another gal that I know from the business networking group. So all friendships, it's networking, and it'll be great. Like Gail and Dave don't even know Terry, so I'll be introducing them. You know what I mean? And they do a mortgage company. She runs a great group called Refine, and that's all over the United States. So I mean, it's just that brings that together, but it goes so much further than that. Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing, right? So Frank Agan, who has been on this show in the past, I would qualify him as my networking mentor, mostly because when I was 25 years old and joined my first networking group about 8 years ago, he was the president of said group. You let that go. I like that. He was the president of that group, and we've maintained that friendship. I haven't lived in Columbus, Ohio since 2000. Frank and I still talk all the time. In fact, I
Crazy.
asked Frank to write a snippet about what the giver's gain thing is in this article. And he said, networkers don't give to get, they get to give. And I just resonated so much with that. I remember asking
Mhm.
him for an introduction, and he said, "Thank you for allowing me to make that connection for you." Because Frank intuitively gets that if you are helping other people, ultimately you're helping yourself, right? So that selfish altruism piece, I've written about it in my book. I've talked about it 100 times from stage. It's right. It's like you're going to go do good for other people because ultimately you know it's going to do good for you. So I love that. Charlie Wahlberg, who's been
Oh
on
yeah.
this show, he's the one I co produced TEDx Detroit with. I met Charlie at a networking event before the networking group was even called Motor City Connect,
Wow.
right? And we were and actually, it might have been Motor City Connect at that time. I met him about 6 months into it as I think about it. But it was not anything like it was, a year after I met Charlie. We had explosive growth. And, exchanging texts with Charlie right now as we're talking. And then Keith Stonehouse, who's going to be a member, a little guest on our show in the future, texting with him today, still friends. He showed up to a Motor City Connect event, actually, probably just online. He just showed up one day, and we've been good friends ever since. It's amazing. It's consistent. Roger Burnett, who we just interviewed at our last podcast,
Yeah.
he and I are good buddies because of networking,
Yeah.
right? We've done
Yeah.
home and home boat lake tours, right? So it's
Isn't
so
that
cool.
funny? Yeah. Yeah. It's a great way to, and it's like-minded people. So let's go to the
That's the
next
key.
level.
That's the
That's
key.
one of the things that through business networking, like I talk every Monday to Joanne Funch, who's been on the show.
Hmm.
Every Monday we do like mastermind. And so it's just that like-mindedness. Us business owners have a different mindset than, I don't know,
Than
people that work
non-business
with us.
owners.
Yeah, and so it's really good to chat with people that, are doing the same things that you're doing in life. So I think just
Absolutely.
even the masterminding side of it and just, not worrying about, oh, they're going to give me business. I'm going to give them business. Have I gotten business from Joanne? Absolutely. Have I given her business? Absolutely. But that's not why we do the masterminding. It's just, that kind of just comes along.
Well, and that's that shared mission piece of networking, right? Because if people are there, they're there to better themselves, they're there to better their business, right? They're there to better their future. And I think that's such an important element, that similar mindset. So we talked about better themselves. How much have you learned about business, about specific strategies, about techniques, about marketing, about things that you could be doing better from showing up at networking events and listening to your cohort there? Or how
My
much
world's
have
a
you been
little
able
bit
to
different.
share?
Yeah, my world's a little bit different just because I think I learn more online because I'm an online marketer. But,
Okay.
so and I don't do as much business networking as I used to. But if I go back to how I started my business, it was business networking. 100%. But over the years now, and especially since COVID and all that, we've moved to more of the online world. So I don't involve myself. I build online funnels and, to bring in leads and that kind of thing. So I just do it a little bit differently than I first started. So for me, the business networking, I attend it more than anything currently for friendships and fun and just to get out. That's why and if I get a business along with it, great. You know what I mean? But it's not what I'm looking for. So I think that um, how much education I learned from business networking. I think education has come in a format of how to business network. Well, and being on a podcast with you for years, obviously, you've talked about it so much too, but giving versus getting and that kind of thing. So I think just how to be at a business networking event. It's interesting to watch brand new people that have never been to one before. They're freaked out at these events sometimes, you know what I mean? And they don't know what to expect or how to handle themselves and that kind of thing. So,
That makes total
yeah.
sense. In the first 5 years of my networking experience, we were in kind of a BNI situation where every week someone was giving a 10 or 20-minute presentation. Sometimes you'd have two. And so you were learning about all the different things that businesses did, right? Whether they were in carpet sales or whether they were selling payroll services or insurance or whatever. If you're listening to these 10-minute talks, you're getting a mini briefing on the different types of businesses people have. When we ran Motor City Connect over the last 6 or 7 years, I'd always have a speaker come up and give very detailed information to make us better.
Oh,
So the amount of conversations and discussions and learning that I'd receive is staggering. So the education, when you're paying attention, which can be tough to do, um, it's mind blowing, right? So I love it from a learning perspective. Let's talk a little bit about uh, my one of my favorite parts is as a solopreneur, like we both are, you have the ability to have a team that actually cares about your wins and celebrates your successes, but also might lend a little shoulder to cry on if you ever need that too. Have you had that experience?
oh yeah, all the time, for sure. Well, even you and me. I mean, look at it. We do business networking. We're
Yeah.
friends back in the past, but I mean, our main reason we are even doing this show is because we knew we were both business networkers. Like, even though
Hmm.
we're not in the same state. And we've talked the good and we've talked the crap, haven't we?
And we have an actual episode called "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of Entrepreneurship." It's from way back in the day.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's a
Exactly.
teeth kicker for sure. And I love that, the ability to, because when you work at a company and you got 27 people on your team, right? It's really easy to meet at the water cooler and high five the wins or bitch about the losses.
True.
But when you're on your own, my dog doesn't really care. The good news is he loves me either way. Um, But, it's one of those things where your spouse may not necessarily understand or be able to relate to it. Your kids probably could care less. So having that network intact really helps with that. Let's talk a little bit about sounding board or guidance council or board of directors, quasi board of directors type things. Do you ever pitch ideas aside from to me, because I know you do that to me, but do you ever pitch ideas to other folks? You mentioned Joanne and doing some masterminding, right?
All the time, all the time. Joanne. I mean, like we've talked about, I just hired a coach. So I've had coaches that I've paid for. But so, and I'm trying to think if they came through networking. They did not actually. They came through online marketing, but I've had other coaches where, yes, I mean, 100%. I think in those that kind of goes back to the masterminding in a way where you can reach out to somebody. I actually had a guy that I talked to yesterday that reached out to me. I met business networking years and years and years ago, and somehow he's like, "Can you? I know you do Facebook ads. Can you help me?" And we hopped on a Zoom, and he wanted me to charge. I did not because I felt like this is a peer of mine. I'll help him out, and it's great to chat. And we learned back and forth. That's the it seems like I can always learn from others, even though they're coming to me for advice. I mean, especially if they're a peer in my space. So it just depends. But I do believe I have definitely used Joanne a ton of times, you a ton of times, many other people as like, hey, can you look at this? Can you look at this? What do you think of this idea? As you do, as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because again, we want that feedback, right? We don't want to just throw stuff out and put it in a vacuum without having somebody vet the idea. So your network becomes a really good sounding board, especially if there are people that are on a similar mission to you or doing the same type of work. I always joke with people, I'm like, listen, my best form of referral sources are people that are doing the exact same thing I'm doing. Why? Because they've got the exact same target client I have. And maybe they're busy and they can't do a thing. Right. And now, because we have this reciprocal relationship, we've had Brenda Meller on the show a couple of times. We both do LinkedIn training and coaching. She's referred me business. I've referred her business, whether it was a conflict of interest because the client does the same thing that the prospect did, or whether it was a timing thing. Hey, I'm going to be out of town. I can't do this talk. Can you? Right. And we have that kind of relationship, even though we're competitors, air
And
quotes.
and going back to number one, perks, she gave you a gig on a cruise ship, correct?
She gave me a gig on a cruise ship because, she had two young kids. She couldn't take off for a week. She was starting her business. Somebody asked her to go teach a LinkedIn class on a cruise. She's like, Terry? Yes, Terry. I will say
Exactly.
I was on I was telling my daughter this the other day. On my vision board from 2010, I had speak on cruise. 10 years later, took a minute, but I got paid to speak
Wow.
on a cruise. So,
Wow. That's
uh,
pretty cool.
woohoo, just
Yeah.
woohoo. And I took my wife and my kid and we had a blast. It was literally the day we got back to port was the day the cruise ship out in Seattle had to stay out because they had COVID cases on it.
I remember that. Yes.
So 3 weeks later, the entire world shut down, and fortunately, we got to go visit Grand Cayman and Cozumel and right before yeah, good times.
Lucky. Lucky.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that one
and
works.
once again, all stems from business networking.
All
Yep.
stems from business networking. So those are a few ideas. Is there something that maybe we should talk about that we
Well,
didn't hit?
I do think we should end with the referrals part.
Oh, you can get referrals too? Oh, all that and the bag of chips. Okay, cool. Let's talk about the bag of chips.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the referral part is important. But I I do. I'm just like we've done this business networking thing for so many years, and we just are. You know, I don't ever go like I was just. I don't even go to events anymore ever to expect any business. I just don't. Like if it comes, it comes. And for me, what's been happening with my business is um, more referral partners are found through the business networking than a client. So if that makes sense. So there are
Mhm.
different levels to look for as well, because it's not always going to be necessarily that you go there and you shake hands and you talk to somebody that, oh, they hire you right there. Like that's so business networking. And a lot of times for me, I have a type of business currently that a lot of when I go to these networking events, most of the people in the room are not necessarily my potential client anyway. So my business model online marketers, so they're not in the networking events. So it's but there's like agencies or I have another guy that has a bunch of coaches that he works with, and so that's my, so referral partners. So that's the getting side. And then the giving side is always listening for you who who could you don't at the time I go to business networking events, and I don't know if the Terry you're like this or not. A lot of times I don't think of somebody for that person right off the bat. But then you asked later, and all of a sudden somebody comes to you and says, I need a photographer, or I'm looking for a photographer. And I go, oh, I just met one. So it's later after the fact that I think about it. And sometimes I have their information. And other times I'm like, I didn't get their card or I forgot, you know what I mean? But, or I knew this person. So it comes down the road, but it happens constantly. Right now, if somebody came to me today and you and said, I'm looking for a photographer, how many of those would you have?
I'm in a weird spot because I know everybody and everybody knows me.
Yep.
So scads,
Yep.
scads, and scads.
Yep. Me
Um,
too.
but it's it's I appreciate your point that when I talk about networking all the time, I'm like it's stay visible to your network, right? You have to stay top of mind, and the most amazing things happen. Bob Berg, who's been on this show, asked the question, how would I recognize if someone I am speaking to is a good referral for you? And I've asked that question dozens of times at networking events. And within a half an hour at the same event, I'll meet someone that is the answer to that question. And then I can run over and make that introduction,
Ah,
bam. And that's where real power happens. Making those connections and having two people talk about you when you're nowhere around, magic, right? So always trying to be the catalyst of those types of connections because it adds value not only to them, but it adds value to you.
exactly. Exactly. I agree. I agree. Referrals do come. I mean, they
Referrals do
absolutely
come.
do come. And but you don't, it's not always, you don't count on that your whole business necessarily is, if you go to business networking events, your whole entire business will be built on a consistent basis. Just like that's the big thing that I've learned over the years is, if your business is desperate mode to get clients, well, you might want to run Facebook ads or something, But
I talk about it all the time. If it's the 29th of the month and you're light on your quota, you shouldn't be networking. That's not the time to do it. That desperation has a scent to it, and people can
yes.
smell you from a mile away. Don't be that person. Don't go to an event to get, go to an event to give, go to an event to build relationships. You talked about the idea of meeting partners, right? There's two types of referrals that we should always be looking for. One is the retail referral, the one that's going to write the check. The
Mhm.
second one is the wholesale referral, the one that's going to introduce us to multiple referrals, retail referrals, right? So make sure you're looking for both. That's another line I learned from Frank Hagan years and years ago, and I love it because it's so
Yeah,
accurate.
love it.
So good.
Good.
I think this is for 40 minutes ago, not knowing what we were going to talk about, this isn't bad.
Yeah, we did good. We did good. Well, I hope people got a lot of value, Ernie.
Right.
Got lots of value. The key thing takeaway, I think, is just don't go to those networking events looking desperate. Don't just
Sure.
and make friends and just enjoy yourself. That's the key thing. And with that enjoyment, you will people need you a million miles away, and they're going to want to give you business. Even if it doesn't happen overnight.
I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Good
Let's
time.
end with also your blog post. So your blog post will probably be live. And what is the website once this goes live? I'm sure the blog post will be ready. So if you guys want further information and want to read Terry's blog post as well, what's the website exactly?
It's trybean.com/blog. So trybean.com/blog. And that one it'll be near the top by the time this goes out still. Cause if I'm weekly at this point, I'm doing pretty good.
If
And
I'm monthly, I'm doing good.
as of now, it's titled "The Giver's Gain Paradox." So maybe that'll still be the topic. It'll definitely have the word givers in it, and it'll be the only one that has that. So might be
Oh,
giving. I play with the headline because it gives me a score on my headlines.
the SEO score. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
we actually interviewed SEO at one point too.
for
I
sure, for
can't
sure.
remember.
You know
All right,
why, Janet E. Johnson? Because we've done like 180 of these
I
shows and
know.
we're continually trying to bring value to Ernie and the people that they love.
By the way, I have to end with one thing that is a shocking when bringing up the whole who we've interviewed. My second interview, Terry, before we even started this show. Do you remember who that was at all? The CEO of a big company that we use every single day of our life.
Okay. I
Canva.
don't. Canva.
Canva.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Was
I
it
didn't
East
know how to
back in
interview
the
at all.
Kimmy days?
Way back, but she couldn't show up, so it was just me and the owner. That company was just valued at billion with a B dollars.
Wow. I didn't know you interviewed Canva guy back in the day.
It was
Canva
that
person.
no gal,
Canva
gal,
gal. Canva
yeah,
gal.
gal. She's adorable, and it was a interesting interview because but anyway,
Such a cool tool. Such a cool tool.
yeah.
I'm doing that thought leader program and I've been building my decks in Google Slides. And one of my students is an instructional designer. And so I was going to hire her to build it out. So when I make it an online course, it doesn't look like something I built. And she took me through her Canva and showed me what she was building. And I said, I've used Canva. I've built presentations in here before. Shame on me for using slides when I could use Canva. So I leveled up my presentation game in
Ooh,
about 5 minutes just by using some of the
it's
Canva
amazing.
templates.
Yeah, Canva has so much stuff. And Reels. We talked about Reels on our last one, I think. And
Yeah,
they have a lot of things for Reels in there as well. So that I haven't
good to
dug
know.
into, but I just was aware of that.
Good
All
to
right.
know.
Well, let's finish it up. Where can they find us, Terry?
Go to businessgrowthtime.com/blog and check out those 180 episodes. Really, one of the best places that I encourage you to go check out because it's so pretty is our Instagram feed. So find us at Business Growth Time there. There you can see all the shows with some, the link to that site I just mentioned. But you're scrolling Instagram already. Go scroll over at Business Growth Time and check out all the fun that we've had over these last 7 years.
Yeah.
Janet, 8 years. Me,
It's
7.
been, yeah, a little bit more. But, the other thing I just want to mention too, the podcast, the actual podcast, iTunes, Stitchers, wherever, that actually has bonus content. So if
Lots of.
you, yeah, we have extra above and beyond the blog and that on the podcast. So you can definitely check that out as well. So, so definitely subscribe to one of your favorite podcast platforms. That would be the recommendation if you like
Love it.
what you got from us. All right.
Yeah, if you don't bother. Then,
All
whatever. We're gonna
right.
start with that one day. We're gonna hit the subscribe first. I like that part. All right,
All right.
Janet E. Johnson, always a pleasure. Rock this St. Patty's Day and be safe out there.
Thank you. Let's hear.